present and one zooming in. And Halsey, welcome on Zoom. We're going to start with public forum, having no comments. Next item, closed session is authorized by Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. Discussion regarding potential personnel appointments.
Luke, you want to go to closed session right now, and we'll shut everything down?
Yeah. As soon as Lupe gets here. Lupe,
Yes, I see her.
he said he saw her.
I see her.
Can you hear us, Ann?
Can y'all?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll stay here. They're turning YouTube live off.
Ms. Costilla will be joining the meeting at
Jan, can you
5:01.
Can you ask Andrew if he shut off YouTube live? To make sure we're.
Hello, I think you're.
Hi, Lupe.
I'm sitting for your names.
Oh, well, can you just change it?
Just switch, just switch.
I didn't notice, Lupe. I just walked in and
Just
sat
sat down, probably. So does somebody have to turn us back on?
Yeah, no,
Oh.
we're not live yet.
Oh, I was
We're
going to
still
make a
closed.
motion.
We're still closed.
We'll wait till he gets
Do
in.
you want these in by school? Or
Yes, by school.
or all
Did you?
together?
I think
Did you-
last time we did them, we did do
By
them,
school.
then we did them by position.
Were you wanting to make the motion or what?
I think
I may make
Mr.
one.
McLaughlin wanted to make a motion.
Oh, Mr. McLaughlin.
He
wants-
wanted to make a motion.
Just as to Bonham, whenever y'all are ready.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
we're
we
back,
on?
we're back in open session, 5:16. We're ready to present our motions for personnel appointments. Do I hear a motion?
Ms. Cantu, I have a motion.
Mis-
Wait,
Mr. McLaughlin?
I'll move that we approve the hiring of Elogia Martinez as the principal for Bonham Pre-K.
All in favor? 7. Ms. Viapando had her hand up. Ms. Viapando?
I would like to move that we approve for good night principal, Mr. Marcos Alvarez.
Ms. Viapando made the motion for good night, Mr. Marcus Alvarez. Mr. Arredondo seconded. All in favor? 7, 0. Ms. Hanson?
I move that we approve Ms. Jessie Giffridge for the principal at Miller Middle School.
Ms. Hanson moves that we hire Ms. Jessie Giffrich for Miller. Mr. Arredondo seconds. All in favor? None opposed. We've got 3 new principals. Welcome aboard. Marcus Alvarez, Jessie Giffrich, Elogia Martinez.
President
Elodia.
Cantu, if you could just give us a second, we actually have them on the Zoom.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we will take, Ms. Martinez, if you want to go first. We can hear you.
Good evening, board. I just want to thank y'all for this opportunity, and I'm excited to continue to serve the students, families, and staff at Bonham. Thank you.
Mrs. Gippridge?
Gifford?
Gippridge.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to serve at Doris Miller Middle School. I'm in San Marcos. It's nice meeting you all.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
Mr. Alvarez?
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to be working with the children in the community of Goodnight Middle School, and I'm very honored at this opportunity, and I look forward to meeting each and every one of you and working with our families and community.
Congratulations to all 3 of you, and welcome to.
Congratulations, guys. Welcome to Team San Marcos.
All right.
Thank you very much. We'll now begin agenda prep for our July.
Leave us if you want now.
You can stay or go, whichever. Not you, Miss Halsey. Agenda preps, we're ready for the July 20th meeting. Mr. Cardona, do you want to begin?
Board President Cantu, members of the board. So I'll go down. Hopefully you have the, I think Mr. Jan sent the latest update. So A will be a reopening plan presentation. And in that plan, so I'm just going to talk a little bit. Hopefully you can get it. I know there's a lot of angst and anxiety out in the community. So we will, by July 20th, try and have something in writing. Now, just understand that that could change at any given time. Like, it literally changes, it seems, every day. But we're trying to narrow down what it's going to look like when kids return. So, what we do know is that school's going to start in some form or fashion on August 24, 2020. That's what the board approved on their calendar. What we do know is that we're going to do what we did at the end of the year, and that's that our staff and our central office will work with our families to provide them the necessary supports, socio-emotionally and academically, that they need. And what we do know is that COVID-19 is going to be around, and that we don't know the answers. Some of the things we decide will make people happy, and some will not make people happy, and we understand that. What we do know, transportation, we've agreed that we will be starting the day by checking temperatures, trying to meet the minimum standards of 12 students per bus, which is creating some logistical nightmares for us. So, if you know the surveys, we've been asking if you can provide transportation. There's a reason for that, to see if we can really narrow down to who needs to be on the bus. We are blessed to have a disinfecting system that was purchased a couple of years ago that gives us unlimited amounts of supplies, sanitary supplies. So we are ordering the spray bottles so that teachers have a lot of equipment. We know we still have a lot of work to finalize numbers. I think last Friday, Dr. Baez provided me an update, and we have about 7,626 current students enrolled, which is about 500 down from what we were at. So we're working to get those numbers. And then starting probably in August, like we did 2 years ago, when I would send y'all a weekly update by campus, by grade level of numbers, we'll start doing that again just earlier on so you get an idea. We do know that health and safety protocols will be, Mr. Wozniak will be available on 20th to talk about some of the things. And part of our process is to require masks and for both, or coverings for both students and staff, which can present some logistics for the smaller kids, but that's going to be the expectation that we're putting in place. We do know that maintenance has already been working on building some barriers, some see-through, transparent cubicles, I guess you could say. Kids sit 4x4 so they can still see each other, but they're plexiglass, like when you go to a grocery store, to try and model at some campuses. Our new facilities director has been working with the principals to take a product out and kind of look at it and see if it fits with what the principal and the teachers will look at. We anticipate that things are going to continue to head the wrong trajectory for a while. So we've been receiving guidance from TEA as to whether we're going to be what they call either synchronous or asynchronous, is the term TEA is using. So you'll hear us use that a lot. I still don't know what it really means, the difference. But on the 20th, Dr. Ruiz Mills will clearly articulate that. We will have by the 20th sample schedules for y'all to look, elementary, middle, and high school schedules. They're working on those right now. We'll have teaching, learning, and assessments, what that looks like if we're at home or we're not. The one thing we're going to need help with, and I mentioned this before some of y'all came in, I don't know that we can continue if we're out for an extended period of time doing what we did at the end of the year, where we had instructional coaches running around creating packets. We have begun the process of purchasing iPads and or laptops for all elementary kids so that they have a device. We have the hotspots. Mr. Cubanak's working on expanding the bandwidth of the hotspot with T-Mobile so it's faster. I think we had some growing pains with those things. But we're going to need your help in helping us get the community to one way or another. We can't, we know we're not going to be able to have kids that go in and out of the system. If they're out, if their parents feel comfortable keeping them out, they need to stay out for a grading period. That allows us to have more continuity and kind of TEA's given us that guidance of saying either they're in school or they're out for 6, 9, some districts said a semester. They're going towards, if you're out and at home, you stay out for the entire semester. I don't know that that's plausible.
Does that mean they're online learning?
They're on at-home learning.
Okay.
They would be at-home
So
learning.
they're still enrolled,
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
but they're, okay, got it.
But sometimes we would have situations where, a parent may say, well, I need them in this week and out this, we can't do that. It's too taxing on the teachers. It's too taxing on, it's really taxing on parents trying to figure that out. So we're going to try and set some parameters around consistency. And if we get that out by the 20th, if you remember, we had a week to pivot from spring break. And so hopefully we'll have a month. I think TA has come out and said we can't officially ask parents to make a decision on whether they're in or out until 2 weeks before school starts. So for us, that's the 17th, the 10th, August 10th would be when we could officially start saying yes or no.
Can we unofficially ask?
We have been unofficially asking them. We are going to have some survey data, Mr. Fernandez, and we're still trying to narrow some of that down. There's, like I said, literally there's a lot of change in what you count as attendance. Luckily, we have Canvas, but we still have to refine some Canvas. We've had some good feedback. I think actually a parent, Mr. Fernandez just forwarded you a letter from a parent that had some really good suggestions on providing a syllabus and stuff, like colleges do for the semester to help. I thought it was a really good email. And so we're looking at Canvas to adjust that platform. We do need to narrow down our platforms for parents so that we know, like, either Google or Canvas. We can't, like, use Google Canvas, Microsoft Teams, blah, blah, you can't use all the different stuff. But we are working, so hopefully by the 20th, we'll share that with y'all as a board first so that you can give us the necessary feedback, and then we can begin communicating with the community in Spanish and English. Luckily, some big urban districts have already started this, so they have some templates that are in English and Spanish that you don't need to translate, we don't need to translate. So, I mean, we're talking to colleagues all around the country, trying to figure out how to message this as quickly as possible. And that's it for the reopening plan. So I'll give up my superintendent report to.
Ms. Halsey has a question. She had her hand up.
Yeah, I'll have two questions about that on the 20th, and they will include wondering if we're still looking at a hybrid model where some students are on campus part of the time and off campus part of the time, and also what we're doing to look at and evaluate the air circulation and ventilation in all of our buildings.
Ms. Costilla?
About lunch, did you cover lunch? Is it going to be necessary?
So, yeah, that will be in the schedules, whatever, the elementary schedule, the middle school schedules that we present, we'll have the lunch. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
President Cantu, I thought we were getting this presentation that's set in the superintendent's report on July 20th today, and I thought that's why we moved this meeting to the evening.
No, we moved it to the evening because we were going to have to vote on personnel.
I think you might be correct.
Yeah, it was my understanding as well that
think you might
tonight
be
we were going to get a draft of the plan to review, and then it would have been formalized at the July regular scheduled meeting.
We have a draft, that's what I'm reading from right now, but it's not really finalized. It's got a lot of what I'm talking.
But you'll have it for the 20th.
Yeah, we can send it this evening to y'all.
Yeah, it's a lot to
Oh, yeah.
digest, and the earlier we get it, I won't be grading commas or
Yeah.
anything if we can just see the.
Luckily, Dr. Reeves-Mills had already done something, but there's still a lot that we need to refine, but I'll send it to you this evening. So I think it's actually called Draft Return to School Plan. So we'll send that to you so you can.
On the 20th.
Well,
It's not on the agenda.
there's not really a vote. We're just kind of getting your feedback. It'll be the plan that comes out.
Mr.
with y'all's-
Arredondo? Mr. Arredondo has a question?
Thank you, Ms. Cantu. On the 20th, at our regular meeting for this month, Mr. Fernandez, my questions a lot are going to be around how we're communicating to ISD families, but more so if I'm a second grade teacher at Crockett Elementary School and I have a Spanish speaking population or a parent, and like my day-to-day communication needs to be in Spanish because I need to talk to that parent about, does your child need lunch, or is everything okay, or how are things going at home because you are online. I would like to see like a flow chart of who faculty at each campus are supposed to contact with those like day-to-day Spanish English translations? Who is their contact person? How does that work? Is there a system in place to do that? I know historically, and some of my more tenured colleagues can probably elucidate us more on this, is there have been kind of like designees, like a parent liaison or parent professional who is comfortable doing that. And I would just like to see that in a more formalized plan. And if they are the go-to person, I hope that we pay them accordingly for those additional services that we're asking them to fulfill for the ISD. Secondly, what Mr. Cardona referenced is, I guess, how it is going to look for parents to opt in or opt out of in-person instruction and out-of-person instruction. And this is really for Mr. Fernandez. Sorry for not differentiating that. Especially for our school-dependent children. So those that might not have the best at-home circumstances for various reasons. Is that like a direct trigger for them to be asked to come to school, with that being done like discreetly, for example? Or if we know that they have, housing insecurity, or they don't have access to meals regularly, they're a member of school fuel, are we making sure that those children come to school or have access to our meals throughout the year, regardless of what model they have chosen? And just because it's on the agenda as an agenda item, I would like more information about modifying the ISD's dress code to mandate employees to wear face shields, masks, etc. And what our status is from one cruise about that. Is that something that the governor has to still enact? Is that something that we need to lobby Judge Becerra to implement, to where we mandate inside the schools and they have to wear them?
We got it.
We can make them wear them?
Yes. According to Juan right now,
Okay.
that's correct. Yes.
Anyone else?
And we're trying to get a variety of face shields to meet different needs.
Okay. Is that it with your?
Item B, Superintendent's Report. Coach Walsh will present on all athletic department staffing changes hired, implemented this year. There haven't been any changes with the majority, but he'll talk about the ones he has made. Item C, the update on equity audit. We were supposed to talk last week. That my email sent to them got put in their spam folder. They responded to me last Thursday evening. So I responded today at 2:32 to let them know, give me a number so we can talk. So part of this will also be addressed in Update 115, which is coming out from TASB. There is an equity piece that they're putting in place, the state of Texas. And that goes kind of to item D also, the update on amending our non-discrimination policies to explicitly prohibit discrimination. So there is a policy update. However, we did pull DAA legal, which is the policy I think that Trustee Halsey is referencing, I believe. It is pretty generic in nature. So, I mean, that's a discussion the board would have to have to do any modifications and work with Mr. Cruz, the first or second reading.
And update 115 addresses personnel and.
So update 115 will address equity for both personnel and students.
But in the superintendent's report, this is a report on what the current policy is, or what the proposed change would be, or what is it?
It's actually just, I'm just going to give you DAA legal,
What it currently is.
what it currently is.
Okay.
And 115 is more, it's more detailed on what it defines what discrimination is. Actually, the draft is in accordance with law, discrimination on the basis of sex includes discrimination on the basis of biological sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, gender stereotypes, or any other prohibited basis related to sex. So that would be addressed from the policy. Policy would follow that.
Can you speak louder?
So just to paraphrase, it's more specific based on case law from the Boston area, Supreme Court case. So there's more explicit language, I think, that will address what Trustee Halsey was potentially asking.
Did you hear all that, Ann? Did you hear?
I could only hear Mr. Cardona, but I'll review the policy when you send it out. I'm assuming that'll be in the board book?
Yes.
Could you attach 115,
Yes.
please, for
You
us?
should have the update for the next board.
Okay.
So
As
it,
you told me today.
if we get update 115, we'll put that also in there.
Thank you.
Okay, but that's all different than the equity study that we talked about at the last meeting, which is the other request that I had for an update.
Correct. I guess you couldn't hear me. The equity, did you hear when I said that the young lady that I was reached out to, my email got put in hers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have more information hopefully by tomorrow that I can provide y'all, like what the equity audit, it'll entail discipline, curriculum, a full-scale equity audit.
Okay.
Item E, we'll get y'all that information just based on what we can currently do or not do, based on information from one cruise. And, you know, we don't know what I never know what the governor or anybody, TEA is going to say, so they could change their mind at any given point. But TEA has even come out and said we can require masks and or face PPEs for adults and students.
And we did add that, sir, to the draft of the dress code in the employee. So it's just draft for now.
Did you say we can or
I don't think
We
your
can.
microphone's on. We can't hear you at all. And I don't know if Ann Halsey can hear you.
I'll try and, can you hear me okay, Ann?
Yeah.
Item 6, Dr. Reeves Mills will
Hold
provide.
on, there was 5F.
7 to F.
Amending the dress code?
No, that's E.
Then
Report on representation of sub-pop among,
Pre-K student body and teachers, staff administration.
what is that anyway?
yeah, I don't,
I can explain that.
Trustee Halsey, that's your request, but I don't,
Yeah. I requested, because I think it's come up several times on the board about how our staff, our teachers, our administration, how they reflect or don't reflect our student body. And so I've asked the superintendent to provide us a report on that.
isn't it in the taper?
it is in the taper, but it's,
It's total staff though, right?
yeah, it's total. So we are going to break it down. Yes. I'll probably just give you an update.
Okay,
Like I'll put it in the board book. I think that's what she was asking. Just, yeah.
okay.
There you go. Item 6A, Dr. Reese Mills will provide an academic update. Item B, Mr. Sandoval will provide a construction update. There is some updating we need to let you know about Miller, specifically around issues we're having. Item C, a financial update from Robert Tiarina. Item D is a Centro update from Dr. Espinosa. Item E and F are quarterly investment reports and annual investment reports. Item 7A, approval of minutes for regular scheduled board meeting on June 15, 2020. Special call board meeting on July 6, 2020. Item 8, closed session is authorized by section 55101, 551.072, 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. A, discussion including consultation with legal counsel in regards to real property located at 211 Lee Street, San Marcos, Texas, and addressing possible development of said property.
What does that mean?
That's, I guess, we just bringing the developer, that had proposed that property, like, yes or no, and move on.
So is Juan going to present the reading from the Attorney General and
Correct.
his recommendation?
He will be here. That's why
Okay.
it's up so early. We may need to move it up earlier. I didn't realize there was so many reports.
It's a lot of reports.
It's a lot of reports. We'll try and make them less.
Mr. Superintendent, on that item, and you and I had spoken about this before, and I brought it to your attention. It's my understanding that Fort Worth ISD had discussed and entered into a similar public-private partnership dealing with their real estate holdings in their jurisdiction. I'd like to, if possible, if we could find out what they did or what legal parameters their legal counsel used to navigate that situation. And if at all possible, Ms. Cantu, and I don't know procedurally how this would work, but we have a report and information item from Dr. Espinosa at the beginning of the meeting. We then have the Lee Street discussion, I guess towards the middle in closed session. And then all the way at the very end of items for action, we go back to the application of the Central Grant. Is there any way, shape, or form that we can consolidate these items into one section of the agenda so we can discuss all these central items
And be done with it.
as is? And then, yeah, so all interested parties can be there at the same time to hear the same conversation, electronic, virtual, or otherwise.
We can change that. Thank you.
Do all these reports and these, and this is both the superintendent's report and the reports and information item, are they all timely? I mean, can we not wait till August on some of these things? It seems
A lot of
kind of
reports.
heavy, like we're gonna be here, a long time, which is okay if it's urgent, but I don't,
We could separate some out, you mean?
yeah, like table them till, like, I don't know what,
Maybe the-
Tijarina, we just
maybe the
visited with them.
investment-
I don't-
He was
That-
going to speak about the tax rate. You had asked for some options going into the tax rate approval in August. So we'll speak about, on the INS side, where you choose to set that, what the options the board might have next year.
So we
So
could do that in
CE
August when we're voting on that, right?
Well, I think one thing, and Trustee Halsey, the items that are under mine, other than Coach Walsh, I can send y'all an update if you would like a,
Memoranda.
on all those items.
Well, I know the presentation on reopening is going to have a lot of public interest. We're going to
Right.
have a lot of questions. I mean, that could be an hour and a half. So, yeah, so like some of these things, like, and I don't know if the censor update could it just be like a written report? I keep up with what they're doing, and we're not necessarily stakeholders. They are a tenant.
Correct.
So I don't know if that item's necessary in July or.
Was that requested by a board member
The central presentation?
in reports and information items? How did that get on the agenda?
No, I think they asked.
They've been looking for an opportunity to share what they were doing, and it matched up with the issue about the Lee Street law and also about the grant. So it all just kind of came together for this month.
All the information on the grant we've already got in our packet. I mean, I know something like 60-something pages. It was rather lengthy.
Well, I know there's some legalese that Juan has to, I guess, explain to us about the grant, possibly. Is that pending?
So are y'all wanting to combine the quarterly and the annual investment report, or maybe move that to August?
Submit those to the board to trustees by email.
Right.
That'll make it shorter there. The E and F, submit to board.
Could we set
As Zach could do academic update, do we have to have anything right now?
No, sir, we can just discuss everything in the superintendent update, and then depending on what is selected, discuss the legislation and do that in August.
You talking about for calendar
Calendar options, we can review.
during the presentation on reopening? Just combine that so we can remove that.
So remove academic update.
Construction update won't take, but
Well, I want to hear about that.
Yeah.
We have to stay on that. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to distract.
Good suggestion. Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin.
D, 6D.
The D and the action in real property, is that,
9,
mm-hmm,
K,
9.
H, K, K, which is K.
But these are in different items. I understand the connection, but if we're going into closed session regarding development, that has nothing to do with the central update. That's an entirely different item. And now down there unless he's talking to us about 6D and X or 10K. So I don't understand, he's given us a report, and then we're talking about the grant down here. Is he going to be addressing the grant on 6D?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that would be the only connection that I see. I just don't see it being part of the action on 9A. I just,
Is there a reason we need to approve a grant from the city of San Marcos to Centro? I mean, I'm all for whatever the city of San Marcos wants to give them.
but you can't hear you.
the grant, we're on the hook for $250,000.
Affects our handling of the process.
can we connect that center update to 10K?
I mean, potentially it does have,
Okay, so then we'll move K up to be with the central update for Dr.
But it still would be an
Espinosa.
action item. I mean,
The grant had
you
a,
have reports up here and then you have action items.
the grant application has a line at the end that all federal laws will be followed. And when it was presented to the city, Dr. Espinosa became aware that that would mean that if the building were to be demolished or Central were to leave, or if we were to sell that, either Central or the school district would be responsible for paying the grant if that happens within 5 years. That's still a little dubious. Juan is reading it, and he's going to give us a readout on whether
Yeah.
or not that's actual. But right now, at their first glance, that did play out. And so before Central accepts that grant, they want to make sure that the school district has buy-in to them remaining for 5 years or more.
Well, man, I don't know
Can I
anything
just
about it.
motion to deny that right now? I mean, God, no. I mean, why would we don't even sign this grant, right? So we're not on the hook for anything.
I can't speak for the lawyer until he gives us a memo, a summary. They're reading it right now, and they haven't produced that for us yet. So the initial indication is that there's some responsibility to the district, but they haven't produced that to us yet.
Okay.
The
The
grant?
grant is between the city and
I know, that was
Central.
our
I mean,
initial,
People
take
out
on
there
it.
in the world agree to something. It doesn't make me liable.
I
don't-
agree.
Ms. Cantu?
Ms. Costilla?
Dr. Espinosa's report, is it a long report or just an update of what's been happening with Centro?
I think it's an update.
And something that can be done very quickly?
I believe so.
That he can do, and I guess he's going to tie in the grant.
I believe that was
Okay.
his intention.
Well, I don't have a problem with that. I just don't want it to be a prolonged report.
I'll share that with him.
Okay.
so if, based on the conversations from staff right now, is that potentially at first reading, the ISD would be, again, based on some legal interpretation, on the hook for up to what the email said, $250,000 if, over the next 5 years, our arrangement with Centro changed. I'm curious as to why there isn't a subsequent executive session item to get information from Mr. Cruz so that we can discuss that. Obviously, I don't want to run up Mr. Cruz's bill, but
He's
I'm
already here.
very curious as to knowing if that is true and how enforceable that is.
We can do that.
Just because it's my understanding, the reason why we were able to and why I voted in favor of the contract with Centro was because it was legally allowable with the 30-day opt-out clause. And all the parties knew that, and education code and giving of public funds, yada, yada, yada. But this would lead me to believe that if now we would be penalized $25,000,
250,000.
250, excuse me. then that
$250,000.
would obviously not make that 30-day opt-out clause, why it was all legal in the beginning, allowable anymore. So, yeah.
We can ask for language for a closed session for that, if that's what
Well, then we
desire.
can put it in under closed discussion, right?
Closed session, yes, ma'am.
Closed session, it would be B, because we took care of the other one already.
Well, we may have another appointment, but yeah.
So we would K into closed session, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Or add a closed session item for Juan to advise regarding district obligations with the grant.
And we'll move agenda A up to
It'll be under closed session.
Still have to be out, I
back
guess.
out.
Yeah, it would be,
It would be back in C.
Well, why do we need to approve it? Why don't we just put it in executive session and then not make it an item for action? I don't understand why it's an
Just
item
for
for action.
discussion, because it has to do with property, and we could go in the back with
So
it.
if Juan told us, I guess that'd be the ask then why it's for action.
Right.
If Juan told us we're on the hook for $250,000, then
We have to take
we would have
action.
to say, we are okay with that interpretation. That's why it's for action, I'm guessing?
I don't know, I didn't put it on. I don't know why it's,
That's why
I don't know
it's
what we
for
do. We don't
need a-
approve,
we-
we don't approve any of their
It's on the
grants.
agenda for approval because if
We
the
don't. I think
lawyer's
what
interpretation
triggered
is what
this
it
was-
is, then the board has to acknowledge we're on the hook.
And school district approval is part of the process.
We'd
And
have to come
administration
back
took
out
care of
and
the
vote.
first part because we approved of the projects. Their
Yes.
doors, windows, really healthy things to make their building a healthy space. But this involves money. And so it's less administrative and more board oriented.
And it involves property, kind of indirectly.
Yes, ma'am.
It just all happened to come together with other things.
Do you have a question? She doesn't. I'm afraid to look down and miss.
So going back to my original
I have to keep
request,
watching.
because of the emails that we'd received from staff about the legal obligations the ISD might bear if the grant is approved and the legal interpretation stands, that was why I suggested all the central items being
Together.
together, because they kind of overlap in a way. And
Good recommendation.
Juan has to
Mhm.
answer questions on all the things, and as far as how that looks on the agenda, I'll leave that in Ms. Cantu's capable hands, but if we can address them all at the same time, why not?
Anyone else?
So we're going to move item K up to 9C.
It's really 9B.
Well, we may have another personnel.
Oh,
Potentially, days of all.
Yeah, we should.
Item 10, items for action, consider approval of budget amendments. We probably will have some just because it was June to July, so we have stuff that's coming in that should have come in. So we will have to bring some items. If we get that information, we'll.
Right now, it's athletics, uniforms, and clothes.
Item B, consider adoption of resolution to identify hazardous conditions within 2 miles of campus. Mr. Wozniak will be here to present that yearly topic. Item C, consider approval of interlocal agreement between San Marcos CISD and the City of San Marcos acting by and through the San Marcos Police Department for the school resource officers.
We're going to submit the same contract to the trustees with amended language that allows if the school year were to change for any other reason in our calendar discussion, that the contract is still in place. Right now, the language is so specific, it wouldn't work. But other than that, it's going to go to you unchanged.
It's very lengthy. Oh, my God. They
Item
thought about everything.
Item D, consider approval of board meeting calendar for 2020-2021 school year. I think, do we have?
I have copies.
Yeah, we'll have copies and we'll email trustee Halsey a copy. Item E, consider approval of TASB delegate and alternate TASB delegate. Item F, this really is kind of a pass-through. I've been in conversations with Juan Cruz. I've also been in conversations with members of the GI Forum when the governor moved the elections from May to November. Because there was a lawsuit, we felt like it'd be best if we got together with the GI Forum. And so this is coming to y'all to approve that they will go submit something to the federal court saying that they understand that the November election is a one-time event only. But Juan Cruz has been in conversations, and I'll miss the name, Rolando Rios.
Rolando.
And so they both have met. Rolando Rios talked to GI Forum. I actually got a call from GI Forum and said that they were good with it, and then to bring it to y'all and just to make sure everybody's on the same page.
So I don't know if this is going to have a lot of discussion on it, but it was my understanding, and I believe it was Ms. Cantu who made the motion when the board moved the elections to November, is that this was for a one-time, because of pandemic, change allowable through the governor's declaration of an emergency executive order. So can this not just be consent, because it's acknowledging something that we've already put into vote and no one's changing it? And we're not going to say. I'm just wondering if anyone really wants this or needs this as a not consent agenda item, if we're trying to expedite things.
Or what we really have to do. Like, I don't want to are they planning on reopening the case and entering an order, or this is just
I
like?
think they're I'm not a lawyer, so they said they would take something after the board meeting and submit it. I guess just as documentation. It didn't sound like they'd open the case. They would just like, hey, here it is in case anybody.
So
That's legalese. I couldn't answer that. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's my understanding that the action is saying we move the election to November because of all of these circumstances. The ISD board acknowledges it goes back to May in 2021.
Correct. And we've even already, I think we budgeted for 2 elections for November and May.
Michael, is Rolando going to be here?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't understand why we need to have it here.
So are
but
we leaving that there?
Move to consent is what I heard.
Move to consent?
I think maybe it'd be best to run it by Juan and see whether, since we had this discussion, can we just put it on consent?
Yeah, one says nothing's needed, then
They don't need anything but
Nothing's
just
needed.
a
Just-
consent.
We can
one
just
that
pull
it's-
it, right? I mean, if we don't have to do anything, I'd rather
Yep.
not do anything.
I guess if Juan says that our original motion to move the election is in alignment with what they're asking
Oh,
we
I'll
do,
call.
then
We didn't have a choice.
So what is that Mr. Rios need then?
I don't know.
he just needs, doesn't he? Or what does he need?
I
already
think
did.
they were just seeking acknowledgement of what I think y'all had already done.
We've already done
Because
this.
when I called Juan, I did say, this is really frustrating because the board already acknowledged it was a one-time move.
Right.
And
It's in our motion.
correct. And then GI Forum was like, well, we don't care. I think you should need to. And I was, at that point, I'm like, I don't need any trouble for board members. Let me just call Juan Cruz. Juan can call Rolando Rios. He did.
can talk.
They had a conversation. GI Forum called back and said, we're all good. Can you just say to the board, okay, they're acknowledging that we know that they know that it's a one-time deal. And I quite honestly got confused because I'm like, so we're paying money to acknowledge that we're already did something one time?
Why
And Juan
would,
said,
why
just
would
do
we do it
it.
again?
So
And it
I'll
was
call
to-
Juan and
Put it under consent.
decide where to put it.
It was
Okay.
so proceeding with the order.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we discussed that language, too, like what exactly are they approving? And he said proceeding with the order is what the motion would be.
Can he, or can y'all supply the exact wording?
Yes, we'll do that, yes.
Okay. Next.
Item G, consider an order calling an election to be held on November 3rd, 2020 for the purpose of electing 2 trustees.
If the deadline to approve all of our election contracts is the 17th of August, and that is most likely the board meeting, but I want to bring it to you on the very last day to review, and if you had any recommendations or adjustments, I didn't think that was fair, so we are bringing it to you early. The only thing undone right now is polling locations, and you can imagine they're scrambling to figure out it's going to be a huge election in November, but at the same time getting polling workers and where are we going to open. I hope to have all that information for you on the 21st, but literally that is a blank spot on our agenda item right now, and we're working with the different entities to fill that out. Everything else is taken care of.
Mr. Barton, do you foresee the cost for hosting these elections in November to be more than what the board originally allocated in May, given the size of the election, or is it like a sliding scale since so many other entities are involved in the November election?
It's actually because of the move to voting centers, which allows you to vote anywhere. It actually costs us a great deal more to run elections. And so it will cost us more than we budgeted last year. And last year we knew going in to the May that we weren't going to have enough. And we were prepared to come to you for a budget amendment and show you what those contracts were going to be, but that didn't play out. This year we were able to budget knowing what it was going to be in May. And we actually, as Mr. Cardona said, we doubled that budget, knowing we're going to run 2 elections next year, and you've approved that budget. So we won't have any budget amendments to take care of elections this time. But to be honest, it is the move to election centers. We are paying for people everywhere, and we're paying per voter as opposed to just hours. And in like Hayes, it's huge.
And just like in every other election, my question is, with the move to voting
That's a
centers in the
district
county,
vote.
what does that look like for our Caldwell and Guadalupe County residents? Because I don't, still,
But they're
no one has
voting
yet
in
to
that
answer
district. They're
that
voting
question
in that
for me. Is
district.
if I'm a San Marcos CISD voter, where do I vote? if I'm in Guadalupe County or Caldwell County? Do I have to come here for an ISD ballot and then over there for other things, or how does that work?
No, ideally, they can go anywhere in their county. And I'll double check that language, just make sure I'm
I
saying.
just don't
it.
think Guadalupe and Caldwell have voting centers. So if that's congruent, great. If not, again, that's been a confusing topic of conversation for folks, is if I live in
They
Martindale,
have to have a,
do I
because
get
it's
all
a
my
national
ballots
election.
in Hayes or Guadalupe, or what does that look like?
And the largest one, obviously, is Hayes.
And it's a national election, they've got to have voting centers.
Michael, can you add District 1 and 3 on the trustees?
Is there no, I mean, for the contract
Electing
with
trustees
the
for District 1 and 2.
for election?
No, 1 and
Is there
3.
no chance for us to get a percent instead of by voter? Nothing to reduce the cost? I mean, that-
It wasn't negotiated. I don't know how to put that nicely. They presented us with a contract for the services, and it was essentially for Hayes. It was what we had budgeted for all three. And so it's going to be a little bit more. But again, we built that into our budget for next year, and so it's not going to be, it's not a surprise to us moving into next year. But it wasn't prepared in the previous year, 1920.
But it was already budgeted.
For 2021, yes, ma'am.
City or somebody else that'd be similar? Are our costs comparable to the city?
I believe they are.
That's good to know.
I haven't seen their contract, but
Item H, consider contract with Guadalupe County for the purpose of election services. Item I, consider contract with Hayes County for the purpose of election services. And then item J is consider nomination to fill a position on the TASB Board of Directors.
I thought we already did that.
We did.
No,
This what?
This isn't it?
Margie's our nominee.
yes, and it would be terrible if you wouldn't vote for me to be the nominee, because it's already submitted all the paperwork.
She's already submitted all her
I'm already on the
At
ballot.
the last meeting, we nominated her,
I thought we'd already covered that.
Is this the other lady?
probably.
Is this that one that sent us the email asking for support, for Dripping Springs up
We already
there?
made our nomination.
Well, no.
So we can remove
You-
this, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Can I clarify that? You're gonna get, this is the vote. On this
Where we
agenda,
vote-
you
where
get
we
to
vote for her.
vote for, there's 3 candidates.
Oh, okay.
It'll be the lady from Dripping Springs, a gentleman from Burnett, and myself.
So you can't remove it
They
'cause we have
accepted
to
all
get
the
to-
paperwork for me, so.
Yes, and they gave me a report that
So we have to
she's,
put all of our votes.
So, you only get one.
We
It's
get
a-
one
it's
vote
a
per district.
District.
so you have to leave it there.
So this is the vote.
This is,
part.
This is
so that
the
we can
vote.
vote for her.
So I hope, since you nominated me already, I hope you'll vote for me today.
Okay, we're gonna think about it. I'm just kidding.
Now I have to go and lobby all the others to vote. But
Okay,
not Burnett or Dripping Springs, but the others.
All right. Item L, and I don't necessarily, so let me just apologize if this is not in the right place, because this was also trustee policy, and I think Dr. Reeves-Mills has some updates that we can give. But item L is authorize the teaching of African-American and Mexican-American studies at San Marcos High School this fall per the SBOE's new guidelines. I don't know if you want to, we can update where we were at.
I have a question.
On this item?
So we had our,
Oh, okay.
Can you hear her?
yeah, it's on. We had our course convention in October, and that's where we review the course deck for our campuses. And we were looking at including Mexican American studies. African American studies will become official in July by TEA, but the new TEKS for that class will not be released until August, and at that point is when we would look at what that curriculum is and purchase the materials necessary to teach those classes. Ideally, we can try to offer something in the spring, but we've got to wait for that to be put into the course card, which is the CO22 from TEA, the course deck, and so that's what we're waiting on. Ms. Presley did express some interest in starting it for next year, offering it as a semester course, Mexican American Studies and African American Studies, doing it each as a semester, but making it a full year long course with those two.
I think the other thing they were looking at is certifications.
Yes, looking at the certifications, preferably somebody that has the social studies certification that is able to teach both of those content areas.
And this would be an elective or?
It would be an elective.
Local elective and
Miss-
wouldn't satisfy as one of the 4 social studies requirements?
No, it's a
Those are
local elective as of right now. Our curriculum instructional specialist, I call him Abdel, he is also working on putting a lot of the cultural relevancy curriculum embedded throughout social studies K through 12, so really finding those components and embedding that too. So this way we're hitting a larger population, our entire student body.
Do you need board action to add the course, or is this what the administration's going to do anyway?
I think Trustee Halsey was trying to support us in moving, and I put it there, so I mean, I don't know. So this was I put it. I said, put it there at the end, and we could discuss it.
Ms. Villalpando?
Ms. Reese Mills, would this be available for freshmen through senior year, or is it just one class, or how is that going to work?
It would be a local class and it'd be available 9th through 12th grade, and it would be an elective.
An elective.
And could you just take one part and not the other, or do you have to take the whole year?
We would like to offer it if a student has availability in their, we would like to offer it as just like a cultural studies course for an entire year, right? Because it's hard to, we don't offer very many semester courses.
Mr. Superintendent, I would be happy to move this to an academic update or an academic report in August if that would be more feasible.
We can do that. I didn't know where to put it, so.
Sounds great.
Mr. Arredondo?
Thank you, Ms. Cantu. I just wanted to echo my support for the ISD moving this forward. A caveat to that is I see that this could be done very well or not so well, depending on who's teaching the class and what kind of support there is around that population that is, enrolling into that curriculum. I think just from talking to folks, the last ISD employee to teach any type of Mexican-American studies class was Bill Nicola decades ago. So it's good to see that this is coming back. But again, ideally for me, I would like to see how this would operate I guess, congruently with the results of the equity audit, how we start talking about race and ethnicity and things like that in a more holistic way. Obviously, when our staff have the tools to have those conversations, then I think it would be the time and the place to have a curriculum and course selection offering like this. So if any way it can be expedited, but also roll out with the results of the equity audit and the things that we're doing in a more holistic manner across the ISD, that would be great for me.
We can have Mr. Abdel kind of present some of the stuff he's doing with professional development. They showed me some of his Pear Deck slides on how he's trying to embed, K-12, so it might fall in line with this also.
Wonderful.
I have a question. Where did we say the survey results were going to go? In what part of the reports? The survey results that Mr. Fernandez was going to give? Was that at the very beginning under superintendent's report?
Yeah. We'll put a presentation that includes that in the reopening,
Okay.
and I'll try and
And how many
time
total
myself to
responses did
10
we
minutes,
get?
15 minutes.
I would have to look, but I think we reached around 6,000 students.
6,000 students. And that includes parents as well, or just students?
Oh, so that's responses from.
On 6,000 students?
Correct.
Got it. That's pretty good.
Item M, consider possible modification to the 2020-2021 approved school calendar. So you have a calendar you already approved, but we've provided you the 7 options if y'all were interested in wanting to explore options.
Mr. Arredondo?
Thank you, Ms. Cantu. Dr. Ruiz-Mills and Dr. Baez, I guess this question is for both of you. If the ISD were to consider and move to, let's say, for example, a school calendar option, let me make sure it's in front of me when I say this correctly, 4 or 7, does that impact the number of days for contracted employees? Or what does that do to changing hours of instruction? So I guess that's 2 separate questions.
So option 4 includes an intersection calendar. We have 173 instructional days. It does not impact the amount of days for teachers to work. Dr. Baez, if you can speak to, we should be with timeline to modify the calendar because we're not changing the start of school date. And so we're still, because we added an additional 15 minutes through kindergarten through 12th grade, by 15 minutes we'll be well above the 75,600 minutes.
Okay. That answered my question.
Madam President, that concludes the agenda prep.
Anything else from anybody?
Do you have an update for us on graduation?
Yes, we do. You want to break the news?
So we will be sending out a message either later today or tomorrow morning to inform our parents that we're canceling in-person graduation. And what we're going to do is set up a time for our seniors to come and take a photo in the pack, July 13th to the 17th. They'll sign up for a time slot, a 10-minute time slot. We are allowing 8 family members to join them for that moment to receive their diploma, take a picture with their diploma, and we will provide either 5x7, we're still figuring out the size, but a photo to the family of the graduate. And that's due to the spike that, Hayes County has seen. We don't want to take that chance. And that's the decision we moving forward.
This decision came actually through the graduation committee and the principal, who were like, we can't.
So from the high school faculty, is that who's on this committee?
Yes, I think Ms. Cooper has a group of
So will
teachers.
somebody be actually giving them the graduate, or their
Miss,
certificate or diploma, excuse me, I couldn't think of the word.
The diploma?
They'll have a table set up outside, and so we're gonna have 3 different sections for family to take different type of photos. And then there's gonna be, just as they're waiting outside to go into the pack, we'll have 3 different setups with nice little backdrops for them to take pictures. And then the official one will be inside on the stage.
And where will they get their diploma?
Right outside the pack.
Okay.
We'll have our counselors or designated staff to pass out their diploma.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Cantu, I'm asking if a board member adds something to the agenda, would you email all of us immediately?
Sure.
Because Mr. Cardona's been good about providing updates from staff.
Anything else?
Move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? 7, none opposed?
good evening.
Thank you, Ms.
Covering on-
Mills. Thank you.